What if I told you that the most powerful villain in Stranger Things has a secret weakness hidden in plain sight? A weakness so terrifying that even Vecna himself refuses to confront it. Today, we're diving deep into one of the darkest mysteries of Season 5. And trust me, this theory changes everything we thought we knew about Henry Creel. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we break down the hidden secrets, theories, and mysteries behind Stranger Things. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives. Today's topic is going to blow your mind because we're exploring why the ultimate villain of the Upside Down is terrified of one specific place. And the answer takes us all the way back to Dimension X and Henry Creel's darkest secret. Let's get into it. So, here's where things get interesting. In the Season 5 footage we've seen, there's this cave. It looks rough, bare, almost like something out of a desert canyon. And Max is hiding there. But here's the kicker. Vecna won't go near it. He stops at the edge like there's some invisible barrier preventing him from stepping inside. Now, think about that for a second. This is Vecna we're talking about. The guy who can bend reality, twist minds, and literally rip open gates between dimensions. He's killed multiple people by invading their consciousness and crushing their bodies from the inside out. He's connected to the Mind Flayer, possibly the most powerful entity in the entire Upside Down. And yet, when it comes to this one cave, he freezes. He won't cross that threshold. On the surface, that doesn't make any sense. Why would an all-powerful psychic demon be afraid of a cave? It's not like there's some magical spell protecting it. It's not guarded by 11 or some other powerful force. It's just a cave. And yet, Vecna treats it like it's the most dangerous place in existence. The answer isn't about magic or protection. It's about memory. It's about trauma. And it's about the one moment in Henry Creel's life that completely destroyed who he was and turned him into the monster we know today. That moment happened in a cave just like this one, decades ago in a place called Dimension X. To understand Vecna's weakness, we need to go back to the beginning. Back before the Creel house, back before Hawkins, back to Nevada, where a young boy named Henry Creel stumbled into something that would change his life forever. Let's rewind to 1947. The Creel family is living in Nevada and Henry is just a normal kid. Sure, maybe he's a bit unusual, a bit curious, but he's not evil. He's not the monster we see in Season 4. He's just a boy exploring the desert landscape around his home. Now, this is important because the show goes out of its way to establish that Henry wasn't born evil. He wasn't some demon child from birth. Something happened to him. Something changed him, and that something was Dimension X. In Nevada, there was secret experimental work happening on interdimensional travel. This wasn't the Hawkins lab yet. This was earlier, more primitive, more dangerous. Someone involved in these experiments stole equipment and hid it in a cave system nearby, thinking it would stay buried and forgotten. They were wrong. Henry, being the curious kid he was, found that cave. He went exploring, going deeper and deeper into the rock formations. And that's when the machinery activated. Without warning, without any understanding of what was happening, Henry was ripped out of our reality and thrown into another dimension, into Dimension X. He was gone for 12 hours. 12 hours in a place that shouldn't exist. 12 hours with creatures that don't follow the rules of our world. 12 hours being exposed to something ancient, something wrong, something that saw potential in him. When Henry finally came back, he wasn't the same. His parents noticed it immediately. His blood was different. Medical tests couldn't explain it. His personality had shifted. There was a coldness to him now, a darkness that hadn't been there before. The boy who went into that cave and the boy who came out were two completely different people. This is the origin story we need to understand. Because everything Vecna becomes, everything he does, every murder, every gate he opens, it all traces back to those 12 hours in Dimension X. That cave in Nevada is ground zero for the creation of the villain we're fighting in Season 5. Now, let's talk about what actually happened to Henry in Dimension X, because this is where the theory gets really dark. Dimension X isn't the Upside Down. This is crucial to understand. The Upside Down is the twisted mirror version of Hawkins that we've been exploring since Season 1. Dimension X is something older, something more primal, something that existed long before Hawkins was ever touched by this darkness. Dimension X is where the Mind Flayer comes from. It's the source, the origin point of the true darkness behind everything we've seen. And when Henry was thrown into that dimension as a child, he came face to face with it. Imagine being a kid alone in a completely alien environment. The rules of physics don't work the same way. The creatures you see don't look like anything from Earth. They move wrong, they feel wrong. Everything about this place screams danger, and then you feel something reaching into your mind, something vast and ancient and hungry. That's what the Mind Flayer did to Henry. It tested him. It pressed into his consciousness, seeing if he could handle the connection, seeing if he could be useful. And apparently, Henry passed the test. The Mind Flayer marked him, changed him on a fundamental level. His blood literally altered to reflect this connection. But here's what makes this so tragic. Henry didn't want this. At least not at first. The show makes it clear that there was a time when Henry resisted the darkness. There was a time when he was afraid of what he'd become. The child who came back from that cave was traumatized, confused, and terrified of the things he could now sense and feel. The Mind Flayer didn't just give Henry powers, it gave him a burden. It gave him knowledge of things that shouldn't exist. It connected him to a realm of pure nightmare and horror. And that connection, that bond forged in Dimension X, is what eventually allows the Mind Flayer to manipulate Henry into becoming Vecna. Think about it. Vecna isn't the master. He thinks he is. He's convinced himself that he's in control, that he's the architect of his own destiny. But the truth is, he's a tool. He's a weapon that the Mind Flayer crafted from a traumatized child who stumbled into the wrong cave at the wrong time. And deep down, in some buried part of his consciousness, Henry Creel knows this. He knows that he's not truly free. He knows that the moment in that cave was the moment he stopped being his own person, and that's why he can't go back. Now, we need to bring Dr. Brenner into this story because his connection to Dimension X is what ultimately brings Henry to Hawkins. And this is where the conspiracy gets even deeper. Years before Henry's accident, Brenner's own father was involved in the early interdimensional experiments. During a mission, Brenner's father accidentally slipped into Dimension X. He was part of a team, but he was the only one who came back. And what he saw there, what he experienced, it haunted him until the day he died. Before his death, Brenner's father told his son everything. He described the realm he'd seen, the creatures, the overwhelming sense of wrongness that permeated everything. He warned his son about the danger, but he also planted a seed, because Brenner didn't hear his father's story and think, we should stay away from this. He heard it and thought, we need to understand this. That story became an obsession for Brenner. He dedicated his career to finding Dimension X again, to opening a gate, to studying what his father had seen. It was personal for him. It was about finishing his father's work, about proving that the horror his father experienced was real and could be controlled. So when reports came in about a boy in Nevada whose blood had mysteriously changed, whose behavior had become disturbed, whose parents claimed something was wrong with him, Brenner recognized the signs immediately. This was someone who'd been where his father went. This was living proof that Dimension X was real. Brenner arranged for the Creel family to move to Hawkins. He set them up in that house. And he began monitoring Henry, studying him, preparing to bring him into the lab. Because Henry wasn't just a research subject to Brenner. He was the key to everything Brenner had been searching for. Eventually, Henry becomes patient 001. He's brought into Hawkins' lab, and that's where the real manipulation begins. Brenner runs tests and discovers the extent of Henry's connection to the Upside Down and to Dimension X. And then Brenner does something unforgivable. He encourages Henry to embrace the darkness. Brenner tells Henry that hurting people will make him stronger, that leaning into his powers, into his connection with the other side, will unlock his full potential. He feeds the darkness inside Henry, nurturing it, shaping it into something that can be used as a weapon. And Henry, traumatized and confused and looking for someone to help him understand what he's become, believes him. He starts to see his powers not as a curse, but as a gift. He starts to see the darkness not as something to fear, but as something to worship. This is how Henry Creel becomes Vecna, not through some inevitable evil nature, but through trauma, manipulation, and the twisted guidance of a man obsessed with interdimensional horror. The final piece of Henry's transformation happens in 1959, and it's heartbreaking because this is the moment when the last shred of Henry's humanity finally dies. At this point, Henry's been living with his powers for over a decade. He's been fighting the darkness, trying to maintain some connection to his old self. He's even formed a relationship with a girl named Patty. She represents something normal, something human, something worth protecting. But his mother, Virginia, is afraid of him. She can sense that something's deeply wrong with her son, and in her desperation to help him, or maybe to protect the rest of the family, she reaches out to Brenner. She tells him about Henry's behavior, about Patty, about everything. When Henry discovers this betrayal by reading his mother's mind, something breaks inside him. The one person who should have protected him, who should have loved him unconditionally, has given him up to the man who's been exploiting him. His mother has chosen fear over faith, and that's when Henry stops fighting. He lets go. He allows the darkness to take control. Under the influence of the Mind Flayer and his own rage, he stands by as his mother and sister die. And then, pushed by Brenner's manipulation, he attacks Patty during a school play, pushing her off a balcony and nearly killing the one person he actually cared about. From that moment on, Henry Creel is gone. What's left is something colder, something more willing to hurt others, something that will eventually become Vecna. The human emotions, the capacity for love and connection, they're still there somewhere, deep inside, but they're buried under layers of trauma, betrayal, and darkness. This is why the cave matters so much, because the cave represents the exact moment when all of this started. The cave is where innocent Henry disappeared and traumatized Henry emerged. It's the point of no return, the place where his life split into before and after. Fast forward to season 5 and we see how all of this history manifests in Vecna's Mind Palace. For those who don't know, a Mind Palace is a mental construct that psychics and powerful telepaths can create. It's a place built from memories and imagination where they can trap victims or hide their own consciousness. Vecna's Mind Palace is a twisted recreation of his past. He's rebuilt the Creel house exactly as it was before his family died. He's created a fairy tale version of his childhood with himself as Mr. Whatsit, this friendly, imaginary presence. He uses this construct to trap people like Holly Wheeler, making them think they're in a safe, normal place while he drains their life force. But here's where it gets fascinating. Everything in the Mind Palace is built from memory. The breakfast Holly eats, the clothes she chooses, the house she walks through, it's all based on real places and moments from Henry's past. And that includes the cave. When Holly wanders into the woods outside the Mind Palace house, she eventually reaches a rocky area with cliffs and a cave entrance. This isn't random scenery. This is Vecna's unconscious recreation of the Nevada caves where he first entered Dimension X. And just like in reality all those years ago, there's danger here. Real danger. That's where Max has been hiding. After the end of season 4, Max's body was left in a coma, but her consciousness was trapped in Vecna's Mind Palace. She's been awake this whole time, trapped inside his mental landscape, looking for a way to survive. And somehow, whether through instinct or experimentation or pure luck, Max has found the one place in Vecna's mind where he won't follow her. She's discovered his blind spot. She's hiding in the psychic recreation of the cave where Henry Creel's life was destroyed. Vecna can sense her there, he knows where she is, but he won't go in. He sends warnings through his Mr. Watts' persona, telling Holly that the woods are dangerous, that monsters live there and that she shouldn't explore. But it's not really about protecting Holly. It's about protecting himself from having to face that cave again. So why can't Vecna enter the cave? It's not a physical barrier, it's not magic, it's psychological trauma on a massive scale. When Vecna looks at that cave entrance in his own Mind Palace, he's not seeing it as an all-powerful villain he's become. He's seeing it as a terrified child he once was. Every instinct in his body is screaming at him to stay away, because that cave represents the exact moment when he lost control of his own destiny. The Mind Flayer first touched him there. The darkness first invaded his mind there. His innocence died there. And even though he spent decades trying to rewrite his story, trying to convince himself that he's the one in charge, that he chose this path willingly, the cave is proof that it's all a lie. Walking into that cave would mean confronting the fact that he's not the master of the Upside Down. He's a servant. He's a weapon that the Mind Flayer crafted from a broken child. And that truth is too painful, too terrifying for him to face. There's also another layer to this. Inside Vecna's consciousness, there might still be a fragment of the child he once was. A fragment that's trying to protect him from reliving the worst moments of his life. That terrified boy doesn't want the monster he became to experience that horror again. So the cave becomes a locked room in Vecna's mind. The door is shut from the inside, and as long as that door stays closed, Vecna can maintain his delusion of control. He can keep pretending that he's the architect of his own fate rather than a victim who learned to become a predator. This gives Max an incredible advantage. She's essentially found a glitch in the Matrix. She's discovered that Vecna's own trauma is protecting her. As long as she stays in that cave, she's safe. Not because of some external power, but because Vecna's own psychological barriers won't let him cross that threshold. Max can use this time to plan, to recover, to figure out how to escape or fight back. And when the rest of the gang inevitably comes to rescue her, this cave could become the key to everything. Because if they can force Vecna to confront what happened in Dimension X, if they can make him face the truth about his own creation, they might be able to break his connection to the Mind Flayer. Think about the strategic implications. The cave could be the location for a final confrontation. It could be the place where Eleven or the others figure out how to separate Henry from the darkness. It could even be a literal gateway back to Dimension X, where they might have to face the Mind Flayer itself. The fact that Vecna's greatest weakness is a memory, is a moment of trauma that he refuses to process, that's actually perfect storytelling. Because Stranger Things has always been about how we deal with darkness, how we process trauma, and how facing our fears is the only way to overcome them. So, there you have it. Vecna's hidden weakness isn't a magic sword or a special spell. It's the memory of a terrified child in a cave, 12 hours in Dimension X, and the moment when Henry Creel's life was stolen from him. This theory connects so many pieces of the Stranger Things mythology: Dimension X, the Mind Flayer's origins, Brenner's obsession, Henry's transformation, and the Mind Palace mechanics we're seeing in Season 5. And it gives Max and the gang a fighting chance against a villain who seems unstoppable. What do you think? Does this theory make sense? Could there be something else hidden in that cave? Could this be how they finally defeat Vecna? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more Stranger Things theories and analysis. We've got so much more content coming as we get closer to Season 5 Volume 2. Hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we create from our own pain. I'll see you in the next video.